What's up, fellow internet denizens? Welcome back to another episode of... Today, we are ranking all of the dragons in Africa, the cradle of humanity. I saved Africa for last because there were some strange ones that I found and I wanted to be a bit more thorough on my research. I also encountered a similar problem here to the one in my Oceania and Americas video in that we really don't have that much information on most big magical reptiles on this continent, for a number of reasons. Mostly having to do with the fact that colonizers don't really go around asking about local dragon populations. However, I took this as a challenge and I found quite a bit of information on some dragons. Let's explore, shall we? First off, the Romans believed that in North Africa there's a small dragon called a jaculus. The jaculus is a serpent with wings and 2 feet, much like a wyvern, but shaped a bit more like a missile. They're built for quick flight and their poison is deadly. However, they don't really need that poison most of the time because they can shoot through a person like an arrow, leaving a bloody hole in their wake. C tier, there's not much else here. Wadjet is an Egyptian cobra goddess who protects rulers and coils around their crowns and headdresses. She is also a goddess of magic, the Eye of Ra, and fear. She usually appears as just a giant cobra, but sometimes she has vulture wings as a symbol of unity between Upper and Lower Egypt. She also spits fire and was Horus's nurse. She appears a lot in association with Nekhbet, the goddess of Upper Egypt, and vultures. While I may have said before that the dragon from Beowulf is the first English example of a fire-breathing dragon, I think Wadjet is probably the first recorded example of a fire-breathing dragon in history. Solid A tier for setting a great precedent. Wepset is a serpent who looks almost identical to Wadjet, except she has horns and is on fire. Like Wadjet, she guards pharaohs and is a protector of the Eye of Ra. Her other forms include a woman with horns and a sun disk, and a woman with a lion head. Honestly, the Egyptians had so many regional variants of their gods. Think about how many times you've seen different versions of Ra, Khepri, Khnum, Ra-Harakti, Amun, and so on. Therefore, I am convinced that Wepset is just an interpretation of Wadjet from Lower Nubia, which seems to be her only real center of worship. D tier. Renenetet is an Egyptian harvest goddess who appears as a cobra with a horned woman's head. She can shapeshift and sometimes appears as just a woman or a mummy or a woman with a snake head. Renenetet also dabbles in being a goddess of childbirth, destiny, fertility, justice, and the household, and in some narratives appears as either Osiris or Horus's mother. Her cobra form symbolizes the cobras that protect crops from pests. She was later picked up as the minor goddess Thermuthis by the Greeks, and then potentially venerated as a saint, but I can't find much information on that. She's more of a goddess than a dragon, and I get that she had a great role to play in the Egyptian pantheon, and I do like her as a goddess, but there's really not much about her that screams dragon to me, so I'm saying D tier. At the center of the Valley of Kings, there is a peak that looks like a pyramid. Meretziger lives here. She's a shape-shifting cobra with a woman's head, but sometimes a woman with a snake's head, or a scorpion with a woman's head. Her name means lover of silence, and she guards the tombs of the dead pharaohs. If someone steals from the tombs she guards or messes up while constructing a tomb, she will strike them blind and poison them. C tier. The Egyptians also believed in a dragon called Nehebkau, who guards the Duat, or underworld, and keeps track of the Ba and Ka, 2 different aspects of the human soul. He's a fire-breathing, 2-headed snake with legs, so sometimes he just appears as a dude with a snake head or a bird-headed snake with arms and legs who is very happy to see you, if you know what I mean. He also eats cobras and has a wife named Nehemtawi, who is the goddess of nursing. Nehebkau also gives names to children. I'd be his friend as long as he understands that I don't want to see all of him. B tier. When the sun god Ra goes underground at night, he is chased by Apophis, this giant serpent. I have been a huge fan of the Apophis narrative since I read the Kane Chronicles in middle school. Apophis is a giant snake that has always existed and has been floating around in this perfect mess of unity and chaos that was the Sea of Nun, until a mound of earth appeared and Atum stepped out. Apophis, seeing the sudden emergence of order, decided to wage war upon everything orderly. There's another version where Neith, the goddess of war, spat Apophis out just after she climbed out of the sea. Ancient Egyptian priests would make wax effigies of Apophis and break them as a form of protection and sympathetic magic, as well as what I come to see as a form of anti-worship. The idea of a creature that wants to destroy everything orderly because it's too much of a hassle is awesome for me. That's also why I'm such a big fan of the auditors from Discworld and Orcus in D&D. Solid S tier. Now Denwen is a fiery Egyptian serpent whose flames could destroy the planet if he's not properly restrained. While Apophis is the chaos that opposes law, Denwen is the evil that opposes good. There's not much else about him, but there's a good reason for that. Saying his name might draw his attention. I'll put him in the unassuming C tier for fear that anything else will invoke him. The Fawn people of Benin have a story of a giant rainbow serpent called Ido Wedo. When I was little, I had this big book of myths from all around the world, and I remember I especially loved Ido Wedo's story. So the Ido Wedo carried Mawu Lisa in his mouth during creation, helping her as she made things. When all was said and done, he coiled under the planet and helped support it. If I recall correctly, he gets cranky and hungry every so often, so some monkeys who live in the sea keep feeding him gold bars, and if he doesn't get his gold in time, he chews on his tail, causing earthquakes. And if he doesn't get his gold at all, he will start eating himself and the world will fall back into the sea. Ido Wedo is also a symbol of loyalty and jealousy, and newlyweds often ask him to bless them. You know I love rainbow serpents, so solid A tier. In Ghana, a long time ago, the Beta used to haunt a city. The Beta is a giant serpent that breathes gold instead of fire in exchange for a steady stream of maidens to eat. He was, of course, slain by the great hero Mamadi Sefe Dekote, who threw the dragon's head away and it landed on the Gold Coast, which is why there is so much gold there. According to one telling, the Beta's head regrew 6 times. In that telling, the Beta's death caused a famine and drought because while he was chewing up maidens, he was genuinely providing for the city. Gold breath is probably the strangest breath weapon I've ever seen, and I do love a dragon that regenerates, so I'm going B tier. In the Gambia, ninky nonkas are crocodile-like dragons with a crest of 3 horns, fire breath, and magical scales. The scales will grant you magic powers if you drink them with water. Now, the ninky nonka eats children and shapeshifts in order to lure prey. Each Gambian tribe has its own story on how to slay the ninky nonka. In one story, for instance, you can present it with a mirror, and it will just die upon seeing itself. This is apparently why they are so rare. The King of Crows placed mirrors everywhere, and most ninky nonka just died. B tier. I love the ninky nonka, but I think the mirror thing nerfs him hard. In the Kasempa district of Zambia, there's a cryptid who some people claim is a modern pterosaur, though to me he sounds a bit more wyvern-like. The Kongamato is bright red, invulnerable, has a 7-foot wingspan, and eats nostrils, pinkies, and earlobes. I think that last bit makes him all the more disturbing. I know some people are probably gonna be mad that I included a cryptid here, but is cryptozoology not just modern-day bestiaries? Anyway, I think the Kongamato feels as if a small wyvern were a horror movie antagonist. C tier. In Dombe is a Congolese, 3-foot wide, several kilometer long snake made of red-hot copper. She lives in the woods, and if you kill her and eat all of her, you'll presumably get her powers. If you only half eat her, she'll still come back as a ghost and kinda just help you anyway. I don't think I quite get this one, honestly. Someone explain this for me? D tier. If you're a fan of overly sarcastic productions, then you have heard the story of Window and the Magic Fly Swatter. This Congolese story involves a hero going around and performing good deeds, kinda like Heracles. One of these deeds involves slaying Karimu, who is a giant 7-headed serpent. Mwindo beats the creature to death with his magic fly swatter. He then proceeds to sing so hard Karimu's stomach splits open, and then he resurrects everyone that Karimu ate. Then he cooked the monster, and the aroma of the lizard's barbecued scales attracts Nkuba, the god of lightning, who is pissed that Mwindo killed his best friend. C tier. Just off Madagascar, there lurks a giant shelled sea serpent called the Tompondrano. It's around 60 to 70 feet long, has red, white, and greenish stripes along it like a candy cane, bony plates, a shrimp's tail, and a snake's head. It also is bioluminescent and curses whoever bothers it. The Tompondrano is very generous to those who do good deeds, though, and is known to have given beautiful wings to the kingfisher in exchange for him saving a little boy. If you find a snake's corpse, you're supposed to wrap it in a burial shroud in order to please the Tompondrano. The shrimp shell and bioluminescence are something that I haven't quite seen before in a dragon, and I love how complex of a character Tompondrano is. A tier. The Nyuvwira is a giant 8-headed hydra that lives in the caves, downed airplanes, and rivers of Malawi. They emit lightning from their bodies both as an offense and a defense, and they also eat gems and metal in order to help conduct electricity better. Every 200 years they migrate, leaving destruction in their wake. If they pass through your neighborhood, the best way to get them to leave is to bribe them with metal and gems. In order to kill one, you need to build a spiral-shaped hut out of razor blades, and then ring a bell, and it will cut itself into bits trying to destroy your razor blade house. B tier. The electric pulses and unique diet are cool, but I think if Slytherin hovering over razor blades kills you, you're not bringing your A game. Finally, in South Africa, there is a 20 to 40 foot long serpent with an elephant head, black scales, sometimes legs, and poison breath. This is the grout slang. He lives in a bottomless pit full of forgotten treasure and is older than the world. Some stories hold that the gods split the grout slang in half to create snakes and elephants. However, a remnant hide in the bottomless pit, and that's where they live to this day. Some people believe that the grout slang story might come from a large snake, a monitor lizard, a seal, or the biblical legend of the serpent and the tree of knowledge. I'm giving him a B tier. I love the unique physiology, and I love this sort of connection to the tree of knowledge. This concludes our tour around the world. I think that out of all the regions we've explored, Africa probably had the fewest dragons I could fully research, and Egypt, of course, had the lion's share here. I'm not mad about that. One of my special interests growing up was ancient Egypt, after all. I think, though, that Africa, despite not having a lot of dragons, has so many unique ones. Shelled dragons, dragons with elephant heads, wyverns that zoom around and shoot through people like arrows, dragons that breathe gold. Africa, I hereby give you guys the prize for the most creative dragons. Congratulations. I'm not done talking about dragons though. There have been a lot more dragons out there, on TV, on flags, in real life, and in music, so tune in next time when I rank every dragon in pop culture, excluding songs, those are saved for yet another video. I've been Alien Daydreamer and I am out. May the 4th be with you. Bye!